that deals with variety of function like controlling the emotion, behavior, memory, short term, long term, and different other type of memory, and even the olfaction. Okay, so this limbic system was first described by Paul Broca, and he defined limbic system as a ring of gray matter on the middle aspect of the cerebral hemisphere. Okay, according to Paul Broca, he defined limbic system as a ring of gray matter on the middle aspect of cerebral hemisphere. While James Pepys was there, who derived a closed circuit name after himself, okay, Pepys circuit, which derived the relationship between limbic system and its association with emotions and memory. How the limbic system are all connected with emotions and memory. Okay, this is some historical aspect of limbic system. And actually, the word limbic system is derived from Latin word limbus, which means age or border. Because early limbic system was supposed to be the structure that lies in the border zone between cerebral cortex and thalamus. Okay, because of this, it is named limbic system. And but nowadays it is considered that not just the border zone structure are present, but even the thalamus and hypothalamus are also included within this limbic system. Okay, uh, anatomically, we can define the term limbic system as part of the cortical and subcortical structures of the cerebral hemisphere that forms a ring around the medial aspect of cerebral hemisphere above the brainstem. Okay, this is the cortical and subcortical structure that form a ring within the medial aspect of cerebral hemisphere above the brainstem, and it plays a vital role in elaboration of emotions and behavior. Okay, emotion, behavior, and memory. Those emotional aspect or the behavioral aspect and memory are all associated with this limbic system, or the main function of it is considered to be the function of limbic system. So this limbic system includes a set of brain structure, okay, where it includes the olfactory pathway, piriform lobe, amygdala, hippocampal formation. This piriform lobe, okay, this piriform lobe includes the uncus and entorhinal area. We already have studied about different gyrus and functional area of cerebral hemisphere. Okay, so within that, this piriform lobe includes the uncus and entorhinal area, amygdala or amygdalic body is there, hippocampal formation, limbic lobe, which includes the septal area, cingulate gyrus, parahippocampal gyrus, hypothalamus, anterior nuclei of thalamus, and habenular nuclei of epithalamus. These structures are all included within the limbic system, and we'll be dealing with individual part in detail. Okay, here this is the diagram to show the ring forming the limbic system within the medial aspect of cerebral hemisphere. This comprises the limbic system. Now to begin with the olfactory pathway or olfactory system here. This olfactory pathway, which is the part of limbic system, includes olfactory nerve, olfactory bulb, olfactory tract, olfactory stria, and piriform area. Okay, this olfactory nerve actually is the central process of this bipolar olfactory neuron. Okay, central process of bipolar olfactory neuron comprises the olfactory nerve, which pierces the caveiform plate of ethmoid to enters into the olfactory bulb. You must have seen the olfactory bulb when you study about or when you had a demo about the cerebrum, isn't it? So it pierces the caveiform plate of ethmoid to enters into the olfactory bulb where it anastomoses with the mitral and tufted cells present within the olfactory bulb. Olfactory bulb is ovoid mass of gray matter situated within the orbital surface of frontal lobe. Okay, so this olfactory bulb later on continues as the olfactory tract. This olfactory tract is formed mostly by the adjuncts of mitral and tufted cells. Okay, olfactory tract which is formed mostly by the adjuncts of mitral and tufted cells. And when traced behind, this olfactory tract divides into olfactory stria. Now, once again, this is olfactory bulb. Here, mitral and tufted cells here. The olfactory tract is formed. Now, from olfactory tract, finally divides into olfactory stria, medial olfactory stria, lateral olfactory stria, and even sometimes intermediate olfactory stria is encountered. Okay. So, the medial olfactory stria passes in front of the anterior perforated substance. Okay, it passes in front of the or along the anterior border of anterior cortical substance to ends into the paraterminal gyrus, and even to few of the fibers run to the opposite olfactory bulb, while lateral olfactory stria passes along the anterolateral border of this anterior perforated substance and into the gyrus semilunaris. Okay, this gyrus semilunaris is considered as the periamygdaloid region. Then the gyrus ambiens and lateral olfactory stria together form the prepiriform region. This is prepiriform. These two together form the prepiriform region. This is the gyrus seminaris, which is considered as the periamygdaloid region. Okay. Now, this prepiriform region is continuous behind with the entorhinal area. Okay, entorhinal area in the anterior part of paracampal gyrus. So paracampal gyrus is present here. So in front of that, the entorhinal area is present, and this gyrus ambiens and lateral olfactory gyrus are continuous with the entorhinal area here. Now, finally, the prepiriform area, periamygdaloid region, and entorhinal area, all of these structure, this marked by a dotted circular line, this structure comprises the piriform lobe. So, olfactory nerve, olfactory bulb, olfactory tract, olfactory stria, and this piriform lobe, all of them constitute the or are included within the olfactory tract. Okay. So this is about the first component part of the limbic system. Then talking about the olfactory reflex, we have experienced that whenever we have just the sense, just the smell or sight of the some palatable food, we start to salivate, isn't it? So this olfactory reflex, the possible pathway of such olfactory reflex is considered to be, it begins from the terminal end of the olfactory stria. So once again here, this is olfactory bulb, olfactory tract, and medial, intermediate, and lateral olfactory stria. So this olfactory reflex begins from the terminals, three terminals of olfactory tract in the form of stria medullaris thalami, and it ends into the habenular nuclei, which is present within the or which is one of the component part of epithalamus. From habenular nuclei, the connections is sent to the interpeduncular nucleus through the fasciculus retroreflexus, from interpeduncular nucleus to the tegmental reticular nuclei, and from there finally into the superior salivatory nucleus, inferior salivatory nucleus, and dorsal nucleus of vagus, which are responsible for production of or which are responsible for salivation. Okay, so this is just to describe the possible olfactory reflex, or whenever we see or we smell the tasty food, we start to salivate because of this pathway. Then the next component part of limbic system is amygdala. Are you people there? Are you people there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the next component part is of limbic system is amygdala, which is a collections of nuclear masses in temporal lobe. Okay, it actually lies within the temporal lobe, beneath the gyrus ambiens, gyrus semilunaris, and uncinate gyrus. Okay, and amygdala is almost almond shaped, situated at the roof of the inferior horn of lateral ventricle. Have you studied about the ventricular system till now? Have you studied about the ventricular system, or it is still not taught yet?
Not taught yet, ma'am.
Why you? I'm not hearing you. Your audio is very small. Okay, leave it. So you will be studying about the ventricular system, and among those ventricular system, one of the largest ventricle is lateral ventricle with anterior horn, posterior horn, and inferior horn. Okay, so this amygdala is present at the roof of the inferior horn of lateral ventricle. Here, this is the amygdaloid body. And in this picture, as we can see, this small rounded structure is the ovid mass, is the amygdaloid body, which lies just beneath the oncus. Okay, it lies beneath the oncus and gyrus semilunar. And this amygdala is divided into two regions, the small corticomedial group of nuclei and large basolateral region. Okay, small corticomedial region and large basolateral region is the two division of amygdala, and this corticomedial region mainly receives offering from olfactory system, while basolateral region receive offering from parahippocampus and some memory-related sensory association area. Okay, so this is about the two division of amygdala. The input system is to the corticomedial nuclear group from the olfactory system and to the basolateral nuclear group from the parahippocampus, as well as some memory-related cortical association areas. While output of amygdala is from corticomedial nuclear group to the septal nuclei of septum pellucidum, septal area of peritoneal gyrus, anterior and preoptic nuclei of hypothalamus through the stria terminalis. Okay, from corticomedial nuclear group, the output or efferent from amygdala is sent to this area through stria terminalis. And remember, the stria terminalis are the fibers which are mainly amygdalofugal, that is, efferent fibers. Larger portion comprises efferent fibers, but even small portions constitute the afferent fibers to the amygdala, that is, amygdalopetal fibers as well as amygdalofugal fibers are there within the stria terminalis. From the basolateral nuclear group through the ventral amygdalofugal fibers, the connections are sent to dorsomedial nucleus of hypothalamus, some of the thalamic nuclei, and the septal area of paraterminal gyrus. Okay, so this is about the input and output, both connections of the amygdala. So in short, we can say here this is the amygdaloid body, which is divided into corticomedial part and basolateral part. Okay, in short, the amygdaloid body receives major input from the olfactory system. Okay, it receives major input from the olfactory system as well as from all the sensory association area of the cerebral cortex. Okay, but it provides major output to the major output system of amygdala is sent to the septal area of the peritoneal gyrus and to the hypothalamus. Here at this region, hypothalamus and septal area of the peritoneal gyrus are the outputs area of the amygdala. Okay, so this is about the connection of the amygdala. Then talking about the function of amygdala, amygdala is considered to be the seat of fear or aggression and even the sexual behavior. Okay, like whenever some people, we have seen that some people faint at the sight of blood, which is considered as blood trauma phobia, and we have seen in movies, and even some may have some experience on this post-traumatic stress disorder, like the army who has encountered horrific scenario during war or in such cases, mainly in army, they will have the post-traumatic stress disorder. Such scenario, such horrific scenario will disturb them maybe even throughout their life. Okay, so all of these things are because of amygdala, because it is the seat of fear or aggression. Okay, and in some of the serious conditions, severe condition of such post-traumatic stress disorder, the treatment, final treatment is considered to be the ablations of amygdala, both of the amygdala. Okay. Beside, the amygdala controls the somatic response to internal needs, drive, and or instincts such as feeding and drinking. Okay, agnostic behavior, mating and maternal care, responses to physical or emotional stress. So, response to the different emotional stress and its facial expression, all of them are the functions of this amygdala. Then experimentally, if the amygdala is stimulated electrically, the persons become more aggressive. Okay, the persons become aggressive when the one's amygdala is stimulated. And in case of bilateral ablations of amygdala, the persons become abnormally docile, like totally inactive, and even in some cases, hypersexual behavior has been found. Okay, these are some of the experimental observation with the stimulation of amygdala. Now, then after, the next part of limbic system is septal area. Septal area, which is also known as pleasure zone of the cortex, and it includes the neuron in the peritoneal gyrus. Okay, here, neuron in the peritoneal gyrus and nuclei of the septum pellucidum are included within the septal area. And connections of septal area is it receives afferent from amygdaloid body. So see here, this is the septal area which between septum pellucidum and peritoneal gyrus, subcallosal area and septum pellucidum. Okay, so within this septal area, the afferent are received from amygdaloid body. Here we can see amygdaloid body through the stria terminalis and even the ventral amygdalofugal fibers. And from the hippocampus, here this is hippocampus. From the hippocampus, the afferent is received by septal area through the dorsal fornix. Here this one is dorsal fornix. Okay, from dorsal fornix afferent is received here, while from the hypothalamus, from the hypothalamus, here this is from hypothalamus and midbrain reticular formation, the afferent is received via the medial forebrain bundle. Okay, so these are some of the afferent received by septal area. And different occipital area is sent to the hippocampal formation through the dorsal fornix, and hypothalamic nuclei, midbrain reticular nuclei, reticular formation through the medial forebrain bundle. So this dorsal fornix, medial forebrain bundle, those are of all of them are bidirectional fibers. Okay, both afferent and efferent fibers are carried through those fibers. If the septal area is stimulated, it cause inhibition of aggressiveness of an individual, okay, and produce pleasure reaction within that. So this is about the experimental observation. If what happen if the septal area is stimulated experimentally. Then the next component part of limbic system is hippocampal formation. Okay, this hippocampal formation, which belongs to archipallial cortex, which means the phylogenetically oldest cortex, archipallial cortex, includes indusium gracium, gyrus faciolaris, dentate gyrus, hippocampus, and part of uncus. Okay, so this indusium gracium actually is the vestigial part of hippocampal formation. What happened here is, once again, here in this picture, we can see this is corpus callosum. Okay, so during embryological development of cerebral hemisphere, backward growth of corpus callosum occurs. Okay, corpus callosum grows backward, dividing the or the invading the hippocampal formation and dividing it into upper part, which comprises this indusium gracium, and lower part, which comprises the septum pellucidum. Okay, eventually the hippocampal formation become vestigial in the upper part. Okay, while the lower part grows prominently with the growth of this temporal lobe. With the growth of this temporal lobe of the cerebral hemisphere, the lower part of hippocampal formation grows prominently and is expressed in the form of dentate gyrus and hippocampus. So, this dentate gyrus and hippocampus are the major part of hippocampal formation, while this indusium gracium and rest of the part are the vestigial part of hippocampal formation. Okay. Now, to know some detail about the indusium gracium. Indusium gracium actually is the thin sheet of gray matter that covers the superior surface of corpus callosum. Okay, it covers the superior surface of corpus callosum, and it is traversed by a pair of medial and lateral longitudinal stria. This is the white fiber, medial and lateral longitudinal stria. But remember, this indusium gracium, along with this medial and lateral longitudinal stria, act as a vestigial part of hippocampal formation, so it has no such significant function in the hippocampal formation. But the important part, or the prominent part of this hippocampal formation, is dentate gyrus and hippocampus itself. Okay, so what is this dentate gyrus? Is here in this section. This narrow crenated, which means the rounded or blunt stripe of gray matter, okay, which is actually the continuation of gyrus faciolaris, and this dentate gyrus is related below and laterally with the paractocampal gyrus, and above and medially with the fimbria of the fornix, which is more clear from this diagram. You can see here, this is the dentate gyrus, which is the continuation of gyrus faciolaris. Okay, so gyrus faciolaris continues anteriorly as the dentate gyrus, and this dentate gyrus is related inferolaterally with the paractocampal gyrus, and above and medially, it is overlapped by fimbria of the fornix. This is fornix, and this is the beginning part of fornix. Fimbria of the fornix is situated above and medially to the hippocampal dentate gyrus. And this dentate gyrus actually is the main input station of hippocampal formation. Okay, remember, dentate gyrus is the main input station of hippocampal formation, and we can say histologically this dentate gyrus has got three layers, which include molecular layer, granular cell layer, and polymorphic cell layer. Okay, histologically, dentate gyrus has three layers: molecular layer, granular cell layer, and polymorphic cell layer. The next component part of hippocampal formation itself is hippocampus. The hippocampus cause elevation along the floor of the inferior horn of lateral ventricle. Okay, here in this section, this is the hippocampus. This C-shaped structure is hippocampus, which cause elevation along the floor of the inferior horn of lateral ventricle. And hippocampus actually is derived from Greek word, which means hippocampus, hippo, which refers to horse, and campus, which refers to sea monster. Okay, so as it resembles almost sea horse shape, it is named hippocampus. Okay, and when we see the, and this is hippocampus, okay, to trace it, the anterior end of hippocampus presents a bulbous extremity, which is marked by numbers of this oblique groove, which resembles a paw of an animal. Hence, it is also called base hippocampi. As it resembles paw of an animal, it is also known as base hippocampi. And again, on coronal section, the hippocampus is C-shaped in outline, okay, which resembles like a horn of a ram. That is horn of a sheep, male sheep. The name Amon's horn. Okay, the name Amon is derived from an Egyptian deity with ram's head. So, some hippocampus is sometimes even referred to as Amon's horn because it resembles the horn of a ram. Okay, so hippocampus has different name. There is hippocampi, Amon's horn, or hippocampus because it resembles the seahorse. Okay, this is about the hippocampus. Then again here, this is parahippocampal gyrus, this is dentate gyrus, and here this is hippocampus as a whole. Okay, so this is the cavity of inferior horn of lateral ventricle. This small gap zone here is the cavity of inferior horn of lateral ventricle. Now, this ventricular surface of hippocampus is covered by a thin sheet of white matter known as alveus. Okay, the ventricular surface of hippocampus is covered by a thin sheet of white matter, which is mainly derived from the pyramidal cells. Can you see these pyramidal cells? It is mainly derived from the pyramidal cells of the hippocampus. Okay, so this alveus is a thin sheet of white matter which covers the ventricular surface of hippocampus. Okay, so this alveus or the fibers of alveus all converge along the medial margin of hippocampus. All of these alveus or all of these fibers converge along the medial margin of hippocampus to form the fimbria hippocampi. Okay, once again I repeat, hippocampus has got the pyramidal cells. So from the pyramidal cells, adjoints of pyramidal cells all converge to form the white matter alveus, a thin sheet of white matter alveus. All of these alveus converge towards the medial margin of hippocampus and it forms the fimbria hippocampi. And the same fimbria hippocampi on reaching the splenium of corpus callosum. You people are clear about corpus callosum, isn't it? So when fimbria hippocampi reaches the splenium of corpus callosum, it becomes continuous with the fornix. Okay. So this is just to show like hippocampus is produced by complex infolding. So this is hippocampus, okay, and hippocampus is formed by complex infolding of dentate gyrus, hippocampus itself, and subiculum. This complex infolding of this structure is give rise to hippocampus, and all of these dentate gyrus, hippocampus, and subiculum, all of them belongs to the archipallial cortex. Okay, this is the that is the oldest phylogenetically oldest cerebral cortex. This is about the formation of what actually is hippocampus. Then talking about the connections of hippocampus. Okay, hippocampal connection offerent offerent to hippocampus is received from cingulate gyrus via the cingulum, from the septal nuclei and inducium gracium via fornix, opposite hippocampus are also connected with each other. Okay, the two side hippocampus which is present on both the cerebral hemisphere. So the opposite side hippocampus are connected with each other via the commissural fibers, while connection from the entorhinal area has got two routes. The outer part of entorhinal area is connected to dentate caries via the porphyrin path, directly perforation through the perforation, and inner part of entorhinal area is connected to alveolus via the alveolar path. Okay, so this entorhinal connection, entorhinal area is connected to hippocampal formation or hippocampus through two routes of connection. While efferent, talking about the efferent of hippocampus, the sole efferent of hippocampus is through the fornix. Okay, the sole efferent is through the fornix. So, what is this fornix? We should know detail about the fornix then. Fornix is the large bundle of projecting fiber. Okay, this is the largest, one of the largest bundle of projecting fibers which connect the hippocampus below posteriorly with the mammillary body anterior. Okay, this is mammillary body, this is hippocampus. So these two structures are connected with each other with the help of fornix. And fornix is actually the continuation of fimbria hippocampi and alveolus, which forms the different component part of fornix. Okay, the fornix has got different, like the corpus callosum, which has got the rostrum, genu, body, and splenium. Similarly, fornix has got different component part here. Okay, the first it begins from the hippocampus in the form of crura of the fornix on either side. Okay, crura of the fornix. Now these two crura converge anteriorly and meet with each other to form the body of the fornix, and further it divides into two column, anterior column. Okay, it divides into two column to terminate into the mammillary body of the hypothalamus. While these two crura of fornix is also interconnected with each other with the help of commissural of fornix, commissural fibers that connect the two sides of the fornix, commissural of fornix. So these are different part of the fornix. Are you people there? Are you people listening? Are you
Yes,
people
ma'am.
there or not?
Yes, ma'am.
सुनिरहेछ कि छैन, बुझिरहेछ कि छैन?
Ma'am.
छ है. Okay, so these are different parts of the fornix. Here, once again, this is hippocampus, this is mammillary body. The fornix arches below the corpus. This is corpus callosum. Okay, this fornix arches below the corpus callosum and ends by joining into the mammillary body here. Uh, being the main output tract, this fornix being the main output tract of the hippocampus. Okay, we have already mentioned the fornix is the only output tract of the hippocampus. So, being the main output tract of the hippocampus, the primary role of fornix is to transmit information from the hippocampus to the mammillary body, and from there even from mammillary body finally to the anterior nucleus of thalamus. Okay, so primary role of fornix is to transmit information from hippocampus to mammillary body and from there to the anterior nucleus of thalamus. Although the specific function of fornix is not entirely defined. Okay, this is the particular function of fornix. It has not yet been completely defined, but it is believed that it plays key part in the aspect of memory. Okay, especially to recall the long-term memory and some of the episodic memory. Episodic memory, like when we recall the past event in a sequential order. So, such a long-term memory as well as episodic memory is thought to be organized or regulated by this fornix. Okay, though its function, particularly its function, is not certain yet. Now, the column of the fornix is divided by the anterior commissure. See here, these are the two anterior commissure. Okay, so anterior commissure divides the column of the fornix into pre-commissural fornix and post-commissural fornix. Okay, while a small amount of fornical fibers passes above the splenium of corpus callosum to form the dorsal fornix. The rest of the part is ventral fornix, while the column of the fornix is further divided into pre-commissural fibers and post-commissural fibers by anterior commissural fiber. Okay, the column which is present in front of anterior commissures is pre-commissural fibers, and the column which is present behind the anterior commissure is the post-commissural fibers. So this pre-commissural fornix provide connection to paradermal gyrus, preoptic nuclei of hypothalamus, anterior preoptic as well as anterior nuclei of hypothalamus. While post-commissural fibers provide connection to the nucleus of thalamus, hypothalamic nuclei, and mammillary body. Okay, see here, this is mammillary body connecting by the post-commissural fiber. And we should be clear even about the dorsal fornix and ventral fornix. Okay. So here, this picture is to show the connections of this fornix. Fornix provide the major pathway into and out of the hippocampus. This is hippocampus, so fornix is the major pathway to provide the fibers into and out of the hippocampus. The main connections of fornix are like the fibers of hippocampal commissures. See here, this is the hippocampus of one cerebral hemisphere. Similarly, hippocampus of another cerebral hemisphere is there. So these two hippocampus are connected with each other by hippocampal commissures. Okay, one of the connection is the two side hippocampus are connected with each other by hippocampal commissures. The fibers from the post-commissural fibers. Now, here as we have talked about the pre and post-commissural part of fornix, now this is the fornix, okay, body of the fornix, and finally the fornix divide into pre-commissural. This is anterior commissure, so this is pre-commissural fiber, this is post-commissural fiber. So the post-commissural fibers from the post-commissural fiber, here this is the one, fiber from the post-commissural fornix originate from the subiculum of the hippocampus, right? From here, subiculum of the hippocampus, these post-commissural fibers are originated. Then it projects to the mammillary body of the hypothalamus. Okay, it projects to the mammillary bodies of the hypothalamus, and from the mammillary body, it is projected to the anterior nucleus of thalamus. From the mammillary body, it is projected to the anterior nucleus of thalamus. While fibers from the pre-commissural fiber, okay, while the fibers from pre-commissural fibers, pre-commissural fornix are connected to the hippocampus, that connect the hippocampus to the septal nuclei, preoptic nuclei of the hypothalamus, and even the cingulate cortex. Okay, and some of the fibers of pre-commissural fibers even runs backward through the stria medullaris thalami into the habernular nuclei, which is present within the pituitary stalk, or that is the part of the epithalamus. And fibers from the dorsal fornix. Here, this is the one we have talked about. The some of the fibers of fornix project above the splenium of corpus callosum, and it is considered as dorsal fornix. Okay, while the rest of the part is considered as ventral fornix. So the fibers from the dorsal fornix reaches to the splenial gyrus and cingulate gyrus. So these are different connections, or how the fornix connect different structures: hippocampus to the septal area, hippocampus to the mammillary body, hippocampus to the habernular nuclei. So this is how the hippocampus is connected with different area of the limbic system itself. Then finally, the most important part of all within the limbic system, from your examination point of view also, the most important part that we should know is about the Papage circuit. Okay, so fornix is one of the critical component part of Papage circuit. Okay, so Papage circuit, as described by James Papage, okay, named after himself, is a closed circuit that consists of the following pathway. Let's start here from the hippocampus. The Papage circuit starts in the subiculum of the hippocampal formation. Okay, Papage circuit start from the subiculum of the hippocampal formation. The subiculum projects to the mammillary bodies via the post-commissural fornix, or let's say directly via the fornix to the mammillary body. The mammillary body then projects to the anterior nuclei of thalamus via the mammillothalamic tract. Okay, the anterior thalamic nuclei next project to the cingulate gyrus, which in turn is projected to the parahippocampal gyrus through the cingulum. And then the parahippocampal gyrus is projected to the entorhinal cortex, and from entorhinal cortex to the hippocampal formation, completing the circle. According to some author, you may find directly from cingulate gyrus, the fibers are projected to the hippocampus. So don't get confused. It is the circuit is overall the circuit is same thing. Okay. So let's do for your convenience. Let's begin the Pape circuit from hippocampus. Subiculum of the hippocampus is the beginning part. Through the fornix, it is related to the mammillary body. From mammillary body to the anterior thalamic nuclear group through the mammillothalamic tract. Again, from anterior thalamic nuclei to cingulate gyrus. From cingulate gyrus to parahippocampal gyrus through the cingulum. From parahippocampal gyrus to interanual cortex and interanual cortex to hippocampus. This is how finally the Pape circuit is completed. Okay, so this is important for you people from your theory point of view as well. Then finally we'll go for the function of the limbic system. So limbic system has so many structures included within its component part. Okay, so it has so many important functions, like it has got one of the integrative center. It influences all the autonomic as well as endocrine system along with the emotional state through its connection with the hypothalamus. Okay, as it is also hypothalamus is also one of the part of limbic system. So all the autonomic as well as endocrine system is controlled by indirectly by the limbic system through the hypothalamus. Then preservation of species like act of mating, home building, or the social behaviors, all of them are also controlled by this limbic system. Emotional behavior like mood, different mood like fear, anger, pleasure, and also the physical expression of these states. Okay, emotional behavior as well as facial expression and physical expression of these states are also done through the limbic system. It is also related with the recent memory and converting the short-term memory into long-term memory and even the consolidation of memory. So this all the memory and its consolidation are all done through this limbic system. And also the spatial memory like the memory of one's environment and its spatial orientation, everything are also related with this limbic system, or it is also the function of limbic system. Okay, so after this we'll go for some of the applied aspects associated with this limbic system. So one of the important syndrome is Kluver-Bucy syndrome. This Kluver-Bucy syndrome results from bilateral destruction of the temporal lobe, particularly which include hippocampus and amygdala. Okay, if the bilateral destruction of temporal lobe occurs with the involvement of hippocampus and amygdala, what happens? Different signs and symptoms are like in some individual the hypersexuality. Okay, like their sexual drive will increase in such an extent that they even don't differentiate between species. Hyperorality, like eating all kind of food, even the edible, non-edible, any kind of food or anything they just start to eat. Docility, loss of number, fear, or anger response. The person become abnormally docile, like inactive. With any type of strong stimulus, they just become docile without any response to them. Okay, this result in personality change of an individual. Then decreased emotionality and visual agnosia, like any of the non-verbal visual stimuli which was recognizable previously, it become unrecognizable to that individual because of this destruction within this hippocampus and amygdala. Okay, so these are some of the symptoms associated with this Kluver-Bucy syndrome. And besides, if amygdala lesion occurs at amygdala, psychomotor seizures will appear, okay, with the loss of memory and impaired decision making. And if hippocampus is damaged only, then the general intelligence of an individual remains as it is, okay. But a long term, they cannot form the long term memory, like even they will not be able to form the recent memory after the lesion to hippocampus. Now the recent memory, they cannot associate those recent memory into long term memory. Okay, so these are some of the regions associated with this structure within the limbic system. So this is all about the limbic system. So any